TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talk's College Football Huddle. How's everybody doing tonight? We got games this week. Not a lot, but we got real football. Who's excited? Real football to talk about. Florida State, Georgia Tech. Florida State and Georgia Tech over in Dublin. Got a few other games we'll take a look at. Just found out that the the Hawaii-Delaware State game is going to be on pay-per-view at midnight. Not on my system. I'm sure you can find it somewhere. I think it might be on. Yeah, I guess it's not even on ESPN Plus. But anyway, we welcome everybody tonight. Watching us tonight on TGI Sports Talk's Facebook page, my personal page, TGI Sports Talk's YouTube channel. We're also live, and we will be, I believe, on Thursday nights now on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel. So make sure you check that out. If you want to comment, and your comments are always welcome, you need to be on Facebook or YouTube, but you can watch it on the big screen on Roku. And there's lots of great content on National Streaming Sports. So please check that out. You can do that by going to your Roku app and channel surfing to download the channel, National Streaming Sports. If you don't find it there, look for Northeast Streaming Sports. I'm not sure if the branding has changed yet or not. But we're happy to be live now, and we'll still repeat the show on Saturday mornings, especially once we get to college football Saturdays. We'll be up against game day starting. I don't know if they got a show this Saturday or not. They probably do. But we'll be live up against, Kirk Herbstreit and the gang. Well, actually, we won't be live. We'll be plausibly live. We'll be on the Roku channel while they're on. Quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff there in Pittsburgh. You want to know all the stuff that's going on with the Steelers and the Pirates and whatnot. Check out Ralph's stuff, especially the Sports Corner with Smokin' Jim Frazier on Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. And Ralph does a lot of other stuff too, political stuff, mostly local bent, but check out Ralph's stuff. Quick shout out to some of our favorite groups. We're back. Facebook is, in their infinite wisdom, is now allowing me to share again to the groups. So thank you. Viewership is bumped up for the shows since last Friday. Thank you, Facebook. And that's sarcasm. But we do want to thank the Bottom Line Sports, Flo and the gang over there, for being a great backer of the show and allowing me to share there. The Sports Authorities with John Gonzalez, one of the best groups out there, guys. Join that group. John's one of the best admins around. Lots of nostalgia, lots of contemporary stuff. Lots of shows like this air there as well. And Golf Buds. I wish I could remember. Ken Krause. I'll get this right for you next time. Golf Buds Sports and More is another group that allows me to share. There's hundreds of groups that allow me to share, and I can't mention them all. I try to mention the ones that come in. JB, or Royal fans with the Back It Up podcast up over on YouTube, usually in for the Major League Baseball update, sometimes for the Sunday Stream Consciousness. But I like to mention the groups who do well for us. I want to thank Larry Sorensen, by the way, good friend of this show. Larry was on the one-on-one show with Keith Engle last week, and we talked mostly Major League Baseball. But I believe we'll have Larry on next Wednesday to talk some college sports as we head into the next week's going to be wall-to-wall football, college football from Thursday right through Labor Day weekend, right till Monday night, Labor Day, with a couple of games Monday night. But Larry will come on next week. We'll talk about the ACC, some of the problems there, and some of the problems in college football in general, or at least how we see them. Tonight we'll look at some of the games. We'll look ahead to next week as well a bit, as we did before. I'm going to give you my picks tonight. I'm going to give you my picks live. We'll go through it. I should have done it ahead of time. I had my template already here and got busy. So if we don't get to it, I'll make my picks next week. But I don't want to wait because we got a Florida State Georgia Tech game. And if I got Florida State in a playoff, I should say it tonight. I'm not quite sure yet. Still thinking about that one. Sleepers. Who are some sleepers around? There's a couple of teams that you got to watch out for, maybe sneaking into the playoff. Teams like North Carolina State, Iowa. Never any offense out there. McNamara may not even be the quarterback this year. Kansas. Coach Leopold's done a great job out there. They could sneak in. Utah could sneak in. Cam Rising back. Missouri in the SEC, great year last year, returning a lot of their best players. And maybe we'll look at ESPN does their bottom 10. They got their first bottom 10 out. Michigan's in it, by the way. So we'll talk about that and anything you guys want to chat about. Oh, look who's here. I got a little, I have a All right, guys, we're back. I apologize. I don't know what's going on. We got an internet problem today, and it's been affecting me pretty much all day with work. Now we can get comments back up here. I apologize 100%. Got kicked out. Couldn't get back in. So anyway, who's with us tonight? Dave Guyette, Syracuse fan. Syracuse is going to be much better this year, Dave. They did lose one of their best cornerbacks, I believe, for the year, 3-4 months. That's pretty much going to be the season. Syracuse will be much better this year. I don't think they're going to compete for a playoff spot, unfortunately, but they'll play in one of the bowl games that we don't care about for sure. Hello, Alan. Alan Perales from Let's Talk Sports, another great group. Listen, I don't go live on Let's Talk Sports anymore, but I do share to their Facebook page and whatnot. Great group of guys, great content. Make sure you check them out. Alan's one of the hardest working guys over there. But there's some great guys over there. Alan's a big SEC fan. Now that Oklahoma's there, Oklahoma State's still better, Alan. I'm sorry. And now we won't play. I'm sorry, it's not we. I like Mike Gundy. But they won't play now for, who knows, decades, potentially. Chris Fgrave up in Toronto. Happy birthday to former Penn State tight end and Jet. Great. Mickey Schuler. Great player. 68 years old. Go fart. I'd love to get Mickey on the show. That'd be great. Get him on a one-on-one. Mickey Schuler was a very, very good tight end in college and also in the pros. And the Jets had some decent teams on. But thanks for coming in tonight, Chris. AC's with us. How are you, AC? Good to have you with us tonight. I don't remember who your football team is now, your college football team. I must have asked you last week. Couple more weeks in the NFL season starts. Yes. 3 weeks. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that on other shows. Maybe we need to do an NFL update along with the Major League Baseball update. Maybe I can figure out time to do that. What would be a good day and time to do that, guys? Think about it. But tonight we're going to talk only college. And we talked, and the NFL comes into it in the context of college players move on to the pros. And I'll tell you what, Dave, there's nothing against the NFL. I'm still a big NFL fan. My team now stinks like everybody else's. But I'll tell you what, and I've said this for years on this show and all my shows, that while the NFL is the best football you'll find, there's a lot more fun on Saturdays than there is on Sundays. There's more energy in the buildings. It's still, and again, I hope that continues. I'm going to try to talk just football tonight and not the stuff surrounding football. But there's always been a lot more excitement and energy, both on the TV and in the stadiums, and I hope that continues going forward. So, what is Utah? Listen, I like Utah. Kyle Whittingham is one of the best coaches, underrated coaches in the country. Done a great job at Utah. Cam Rising sat out the whole season last year. He was one of the top-ranked quarterbacks. I was looking at some of the top guys coming out in the draft this year, and they only have in the top 12. Cam Rising, I will tell you right now, is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country, and he will be this year. And playing in the Big 12, where they can play an exciting brand of football at times there. I think it's going to be a fun conference. Do I think it's as good as the SEC, the Big 10? No, I certainly don't. But it's going to be fun because there's 7 or 8 teams that can win that conference. And again, they've got a lot of veterans coming back. The whole point last year, their big problem, quarterback play, was not good. Rising was hurt to start the season, and they kept waiting and waiting and waiting. They finally redshirted him. Well, didn't really redshirt him. He still had another year of eligibility, I think, left. Whatever. Again, you can redshirt guys like up to game 6 now. And they can play even. I mean, a lot of the rules have changed. I don't want to get into all that. But I think, look at Kyle Whittingham, one of the great coaches in the country, one of the most underrated guys you'll find. And again, they're not going to be highly ranked. I don't think they're ranked anywhere right now, are they? And good evening, Danny Fuller out there in Southern California. I'm assuming you're right now at an important high school volleyball game. Danny's got some good athletes he's raising his kids, I can tell you. Good job out there, Danny. You can give us an update on what's going on there. I'll be happy. You know, it's still an amateur sport, so even though it's not college football, I'll be happy to share a story or an update on what's going on there. And I'm wrong, Chris, by the way. Utah's 12 in both polls. I don't know. I fell asleep on that one. But not being talked a lot about for the playoffs. So I'm going to go conference by conference and give you my teams tonight as we go forward here. We got games this weekend, as I said. I'll give you my picks on those games, all of them actually. We try to do that week to week. It's hard to go through every single game, right? I'll go through the big games in every conference, top 25 games for sure. If guys are certain, we have guys that pop in just to get picks. Why they want them from me, I don't know. But we'll start up. I haven't heard anything about our cigar box, which is where we do our friendly wagering. We don't have a bookie or DraftKings. I mean, I'll make a wager outside there once in a while, but you know, we have a cigar box where there's 20 or 22 guys, and I don't know how many guys were in last year. You can bet X amount of money per week. Usually we'll bet 3 college teams, 3 pro games. Because there's a max of, I think you can bet up to X amount of money. And I like to put my money up, spread it out over 6 games. Some guys will bet, less money on 20 games. I don't see the point. I pinpoint 3 college games and I pinpoint 3 pro games once we have both of them playing simultaneously. And I'll give you my picks if I know what they are. And I often will post them on the site Saturday mornings because I usually do that. Syracuse first 4 games at home. Good call there, Dave. Let's take a quick look. We haven't done this. Let me go through Syracuse's schedule. And I'll do this with anybody. You want to talk about anybody? Chris, we can go back to Utah and do their schedule. As Dave said, big Syracuse fan, they're going to open up, I think, 4-0 because they're at home. The only team that's got a chance to beat them in my mind these 4 games is maybe Georgia Tech. We're going to see. I like Coach Key. Georgia Tech now is 2 full years into his system. And they got better last year. I don't think they're going to win the ACC. They could scare Florida State in Dublin this weekend. We'll talk more about that. But Syracuse, win against Ohio. I think they beat Georgia Tech at home. They'll beat Stanford, who's not very good. First year in the ACC. Traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast, never easy. It is a night game. That helps them. Then they got Holy Cross in week 4. Their first road game's at UNLV. Not a pushover. UNLV might be one of the better, most improved teams in the country this year. But I like UNLV a bit. I think Syracuse wins. I think they would go 4-0, 5-0 to start the season. We saw this a few years ago. They started 6-0 and ended up 6-6. Let's say it was 2 years ago. It might have been 3 years ago now. They get NC State in week 6, or at least on October 12th. At NC State, I think they get beat there. 5-1. I think they'll beat Pitt on the road. 6-1. Virginia Tech's going to be a tough game at home. I'm going to call that. I'm going to call that 6-2. At Boston College, win 7-2. Boston College, a team that has not had, the success that they probably should have. All these basketball schools that went to the ACC for football, everybody struggles. So anyway, 6-2 after Boston, or 7-2 after Boston College, I think. Yep. I think they win at Cal. 7-2. They win at UConn. 8-2. I'm missing a game here somewhere. They'd be 9-2 after UConn. 9-3. I got Syracuse going 9-3. Might be a little aggressive. They're going to lose to Miami in that last game at home. I'm a Hurricanes fan by marriage. And every year they get hyped in the preseason. Got to fix my collar. I hate my collar. It's not like that. On camera, it's always backwards too. Anyway, might be a little, 9-3 might be a little aggressive. 8 wins surely in play. And if they don't win 7, the first-year coach is going to be in big trouble. Bill O'Brien is BC's head coach this year. If you remember, Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, left, as most of the coaches did, when Bill Belichick was fired. He took the offensive coordinator job at Ohio State, and then quickly resigned that position when he was offered the head coaching gig at Boston College. And of course, Chip Kelly is now the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. So a little musical chairs there played. But Bill O'Brien, and by the way, I think Bill O'Brien did a really good job at Penn State under horrific conditions. If you remember, he was the coach after Joe Paterno when all that crap came down with Jerry Sandusky and the whole scandal and the Paterno getting fired. He was fired, just be clear. It doesn't matter what you really think about that. They were really in dire straits. Bill O'Brien went in there and did a pretty good job in 3 or 4 years before he went on to the Texans. Bill O'Brien will make Boston College much better. Whether it be year 1 is debatable, AC. I've talked about this a lot, Chris, the last few weeks. I like Notre Dame a lot. I think Notre Dame's a top 5 team this year, right? And it all hinges on Riley Leonard being healthy and being able to pick up a new system. Riley Leonard, when he plays, is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Problem has been staying on the field for Riley Leonard, and last year was typical. He got off to gangbuster start in Duke's upset at Clemson last year. Played great, running the ball, throwing the ball. He gives Notre Dame something they haven't had maybe ever, a guy who can run and throw with the proficiency that Riley Leonard does. Does he have his workout form? Sure. But Notre Dame, man, their schedule is not that tough. I went through it, I think, last week. I'll do it again real quick, Chris. I think this team is a one-loss team at worst. Kind of where I'm standing here. And let me find they're one of 3 independents left in the country, by the way. Now, they do play a lot of ACC teams. They don't belong to the ACC, but they have an agreement, and they play so many teams. I think we'll find out all we need to know about Notre Dame Week 1 at College Station, that's next week, at Texas A&M, who will be better under Mike Elko, who left Duke for the Texas A&M job, where he was a defensive coordinator and Jimbo Fisher. I think we find out everything we need to know. And I have Notre Dame winning that game. They beat Northern Illinois. Purdue's not going to be very good. They'll be at Purdue. They'll win. That's 3-0. Miami of Ohio, 4-0. Louisville's not bad. Jeff Brom's done a great job there. They bring back a lot of players. They'll be a force in the ACC. They lose this game at Notre Dame, 5-0. Stanford, no contest, 6-0. Georgia Tech at home, not going to happen, 7-0. Navy, 8-0. At Florida State. This is the only game I think that got a shot of losing. If they win, if they beat Texas A&M, they're going to get to Florida State undefeated. Florida State might be undefeated. This might be a huge game, November 9th. I think they beat them. They're at home. 9-0. Virginia, 10-0. Army, 11-0. USC, at USC. Unless USC surprises everybody. Now, they are ranked in some polls. ESPN, in fact, has them number 23. I think Notre Dame has one loss at the worst. The best place for them to lose would be against Texas A&M in week 1 and run the table. I think they run the whole table. I think this team's got a very good shot at being undefeated. Now, keep in mind, it doesn't matter. They could be number 1 in the country. They aren't going to get a bye in the college football playoff. They can't. They don't play in a conference. The byes are set aside for the 4th highest ranked conference champion. Now, that could be, by the way, that could be a group of 5 team. I mean, think about it. It's possible, which would mean Notre Dame would be ranked below the group of 5 team, by the way. They're going to get the 5th slot. And they could. It's conceivable if the Big 12 beats each other up, right? And the conference champion is, 15th in the country. It's possible a Boise State or a Memphis or an SMU, somebody gets really hot in their Power 5 conference and runs the table. It's very possible. And then they wouldn't even get a bye. And the group of 5 team would. It's possible, not probable, possible. But your point about Riley Leonard is well taken, Chris, for sure. Syracuse might have to play the short game with all that travel in the night. Yeah, again, it's not going to be good for any of these conferences where they got to go coast to coast, whether it's west to east or east to west. The Big Ten stretches from, and again, I'm trying to stay positive as we're getting to games, right? But travel is going to be an important factor. Big Ten is traveling basically from Los Angeles to East Rutherford, New Jersey. The ACC is going to travel from Berkeley or Palo Alto, whichever one you want to pick, to Boston. The SEC, ironically, stretches the least. I shouldn't say that. I guess the Big 12 probably would stretch the least. Got the Arizona schools, I think, are the furthest west, and West Virginia is the furthest east. No, I guess the SEC would still probably be short. I don't know the miles from, specifically, but I think the SEC might have less travel miles than the Big Ten or the ACC, actually. But that will come into play, I think, Chris. Great point. If Syracuse is good as you say, I'm going to be partying at Turney Stone. There you go. AC knows where the casinos are. They're dying for a good team up there in Syracuse. They've had 2 years ago. Dino Barber was a really good coach, and just it's been a bad situation up there. I think things are going to be much, much better as we get things turned around here in the grade. I'm not a big Syracuse fan. I root for stories, though, when it comes to college. Yes, I root for Miami. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Notre Dame a bit. But I like to root for good stories. I'm not a bandwagon jumper by any means, but when it comes to college sports, college basketball, I'm a big Marquette fan. But I root for stories and really good stories. Syracuse having the kind of year I just talked about would be a great story for college football and for the ACC and for upstate New York, I can tell you right now. Or Western New York, whatever you want to call it. And Fran Brown, former defensive back coach for Georgia, is the new head coach there, replacing Dino Babers. What do we got here? Watch Paul. Welcome, Paul. Good to have you with us tonight. Paul's out, I believe. If I'm not wrong, Paul, you're out in Amsterdam, New York as well, I believe. I'm a Miami fan, as I said, Paul, by marriage mostly. There's been so much hype in the last, every other year it seems for the last few years, right? We had the turnover chain with Mike Rick and Mike Rick's second to last year. They got off to a tremendous start and then just fell on their face against Clemson, fell on their face in the ACC championship game, fell on their face in the bowl game against Wisconsin. 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? Well, last year, a lot of people were picking them in the top 15 as they are this year and picking them for a playoff. And Van Dyke fell on his face and that defense wasn't as good. And, Marco Cristobal is under some heat. But Paul thinks they're a legitimate national championship contender with tremendous talent. And by the way, they've got maybe the biggest transfer portal consortium in the country. They're paying out more money, or were anyway. I don't know about this year yet, but we're paying out more money than any program in the country to athletes throughout their sport programs. And Cam Ward is a great talent for sure. But that Washington State team got off to a quick start last year. I'm trying to remember who they beat in their first game. It was a bit of an upset. Gosh, I can't remember. I bet that game too. Cam Ward got off to a great start, and that team really trailed off and played pretty badly. But I think Cam Ward will be a boost. Probably going to be an upgrade from Van Dyke. And Van Dyke, by the way, won the starting job at Wisconsin. I'd like to share your optimism, Paul, but the problem is I've been hit over the head with a shovel so many times when I get excited about the Hurricanes, and I'm going to play it a little bit close to the vest. Let's take a look. That's what we're talking about. Let's take a look at Miami's schedule, as we have with some others already tonight. I just went this way. Hold on. Because Miami is... Nope, they're not there now. I went too far. Let's go back. All right, Miami. 19th in the ESPN poll. Where are they in some of these other polls here? Bear with me. The AP, I believe, had them... I thought they had them ranked. Oh, they do. 19 and 19. They're ranked 19 everywhere. But here's their schedule. So let's take a look, Paul, and we'll be realistic here as we can be. They're at Florida. Florida's a mess under Billy Napier. They're not going to lose. They're going to win at Florida. This is where they got to be careful, because this is where they have stumbled every one of these years. They struggle with Appalachian State, who's a good football program. Don't get me wrong. They lose to Mississippi Valley State. 2 years ago. They got Florida A&M, Ball State, and South Florida right after Florida. Now, there's no way in this God's green earth this team cannot be 4-0 after South Florida. They're going to get Virginia Tech at home. It hasn't been a great home field advantage in recent years when you watch Miami, and that Hard Rock is often half full, at least for day games. Night games, you get Clemson in there or somebody. You watch them against Pittsburgh or Virginia, there's nobody there. They should beat Virginia Tech at home, 5-0. They go into Cal. As Chris said, tough trip across the country. They should beat this California team, 6-0. At Louisville, Ugh. I think they might lose at Louisville. 6-1. Florida State at home. Ugh. I'm going to give them a win. 7-1. Duke, 8-1. At Georgia Tech will be tougher than you think. 9-1. Boy, this team could go 9-1. Or I'm sorry, 11-1. They finished with Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. At Georgia Tech, at Syracuse. This team could have one loss. They could be a national championship contender. Now, the question is going to be, does the ACC get a second team in? That's not the conference champion. That's the big question. That's a big question for the Big 12 as well. Because remember, you got 4 spots locked up, 5 spots locked up with the conference winners. Let's just assume for a second Miami's not a conference winner. You got 5 spots locked up with the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, and Big 10. Who can't count? There's 18 teams. Nobody can count. There's not 12 teams in the Big 12 either. You got Notre Dame. Notre Dame's making a playoff. That's 5. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 other teams from the SEC. That's 7. You're going to have at least probably 2 other teams from the Big 10. That's 9. I think the ACC does get a second team in. So let's assume if it's Miami's in the championship game, they'll get that bid. If they aren't in, then probably the second place team, whether it's Florida State or Louisville, that's the ACC gets another one. Then is it possible there's 4 that come from the ACC or for the SEC? 4 that come from the Big 10. I don't see 4 coming from the Big 10. But you're probably going to get Oregon. Well, let's look real quick. And this will give you a little bit of a hint of how I'm going with my playoff picks, right? I think here's what I think. You get the SEC. I've got the winner, obviously. That's 1. And let's just say, for sake of argument, it's Georgia. Wins. Remember, no divisions anymore either. So you're not going to get a 4 or 5 loss team get in the championship game. Not going to happen. I think Alabama gets in. I think Ole Miss gets in. Texas gets in. That's 4 right there. And you got Missouri. You got LSU. You got Tennessee, all on the cusp. They're going to have 5 teams. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible. They probably can't have 5 teams. I don't think that's going to work. Now, the Big 10. How about the Big 10? I'll get back to your comments in just a second, guys. The Big 10. Oregon's in. Oregon probably wins. I'm going to say Oregon wins. Ohio State's going to get in. There are only 2 sure things, by the way. I think Michigan's going to underperform. Penn State, they're going to be around maybe right at that 12 cutoff. For sake of argument, I'm going to say one of these teams gets in. Penn State, Iowa has a big year despite their, historically bad offense year after year. Let's just say they get 3 teams, and the SEC gets 4 teams, right? Let's just say that's it. 7 teams from the Big 10 and the SEC. Sake of argument. And it's not impossible. 7 teams. That means you still got the Group of 5 winner. You got Notre Dame. I got 9. I got 3 more teams. Where are they coming from? Big 12 gets a second team. ACC gets a second team. That's 11. Oh, I didn't count Notre Dame in there. Sorry. it's very possible either the Big 12 or the ACC gets shut out of that second spot. I got to do that again. I think I messed up. SEC and the Big 10 with 7 selections, let's say, between the winner and the at-large. Notre Dame. Maybe I did this right. Notre Dame, group of 5. Yeah. Big 12, ACC runners-up. Or maybe that won't be the runner-up. I mean, they could take whoever they want at that point. Unless the SEC goes deeper than 5 or 4. This is why I think the SEC can get to 5. Lots of stuff can happen. Florida does have tough critics, but for a good reason. I mean, they fired a coach who was in a national championship hunt until his last year in Mullen, Coach Mullen. They brought a guy in, Billy Napier, who had great success at Louisiana, but that's a big step from Louisiana to the SEC. They haven't been good the last 2 years. They've been bad, very bad. And they've got a juggernaut of a schedule this year. So, again, well, let's go through their schedule real quick, Chris, and you can tell me where I'm wrong when I go with these picks. They're going to lose to Miami. They'll beat Samford. They're going to lose at Texas A&M at home. They're going to lose at Mississippi State. I think they're going to lose at UCF. And that's one of the teams to watch as a sleeper out in the Big 12, sneaking in, stealing a second bid, maybe winning the conference. I think KJ Jefferson is going to be great out there in that system for sure. I just can't see any way he's not going to have a better season than he had at any time at Arkansas. And he was really good for a couple of years. Last year he had injury problems and whatnot. But I think he's going to be much, much better this year. And I think Central Florida is going to be one of the teams to keep an eye on going forward. So they're not going to win that game. Or are they? They got 1 win so far. They're not winning at Tennessee. They might beat Kentucky. I'll give you 2 wins there. They're not beating Georgia. They're not beating Texas. They're not beating LSU. They're not beating Ole Miss. And they're not beating Florida State. This team might win 2 games this year. I'll give you 3. They're gonna, they'll sneak in a win against A&M or at home. They're not beating Ole Miss even at home. This is a 2 or 3 win team. Billy Napier's getting fired. He's on one of the hottest seats in the country. They love orange in the Turning Stone poker room. I bet you they do. I haven't played so long. I used to go up to Turning Stone a lot, AC. It's been about 10 years or so, but I used to go up and play poker a lot. Texas Hold'em by my way in. There's our Steve Orpello from Perth. Good evening, Steve. How are you? Alicia Pulver out in London. Hello, Alicia. It's late. What are you doing up at, 12:30? You're not 64 years old. That's why. Hello, Alicia. You're the best. You look like your dad had a great time visiting you out there, and I know things are going well for you, and I hope things continue to go well for you. Up late, Billy, for me, used to do a crazy schedule. Up too late. Billy, for me, used to a schedule. What's Billy for me? I don't speak English. Alicia's formerly from right here in Broad Auburn, New York, as we like to mention all our local peeps. Going on a road trip from Seattle to California in September. Your brother's still up in Seattle, I take it? Who is in California that you guys visit all the time anyway? Here, this is turning into the Sunday Stream of Consciousness all of a sudden. What is college? Or let's see, going on a road trip from Seattle to California in September. What is a college or NFL or baseball game you should try to go to? Listen, when you're up in Seattle, I don't know how far it is to UW. Washington's a great place to go watch a game. The Huskies not going to be as good this year, but possibly they were in the national championship game last year. As you travel down, you can certainly go to an Oregon State game, an Oregon Ducks game even. As you get to Southern or Northern California, you could look at Fresno State if they're home. They play really good. They're going to be really good and a sleeper in the Mountain West this year. We're just sticking with college. You're going to drive through Berkeley again. Don't know who's there or who's going to be home. I know not knowing what weeks you're going to be traveling. But Cal now is playing in the ACC, and we just talked about Syracuse would be out at Cal. Actually, when was that? Let me give you that real quick if I can get back there quick. Hold on one second. Crap. Hold on, I lost my standings. I want to see when Syracuse is going to be. It might match up. Feel like it was. Nah, that's not until November. So Syracuse would have been out in California for the at Cal. You got UCLA and USC, obviously, if you get into LA. Baseball, you got the Dodgers will be in a pennant race. And Padres will be in a pennant race in San Diego and LA and San Diego, respectively. NFL, Chargers and Rams will have home games, obviously, in that month. So sticking with college, if I had to pick one game in September, I would try to get to Washington. I really would. The place I always want to go to again. Is there anything but stupid politics? Sunday we stream into politics now and again. It's usually not pretty because I'm very. We won't get into it today. But the politics I know over there, knowing my good friend. My late friend, Dan Harris, who was from the UK. And Dan Harris, I didn't give my thumbs up to Dan Harris today. I apologize, Dan. God rest your soul. Good man. Passed away at 38 years old. He was a shut-in. He started Let's Start Talk Sports. He and I had a great friendship through the years. We did a show together on Fridays. And he used to tell me about the crazy politics there in the UK. So, good man, gone too soon. Had a lot of physical problems and a lot of issues in his younger life that he shared with me, and I miss Dan. I miss Dan a lot. Good guy, and I know the Let's Talk Sports guys all do. Billy got you used to the late schedule. Oh, I see. He's an old man. What's he doing up at 12:30 at night? He's probably sleeping right now. He's home, or is he gone? I never know where Waldo is. He wants to get together and he can never find it. Send me email it to me, Alicia. My email is PATS. That's P as in Peter, A as in Apple, T as in Tom, S as in Sam, 09 at MSN.com. Don't make fun of my MSN.com. That is Pat's 09, by the way. You can figure that out. And then I'll give you a couple of options to check out while you're out there. Absolutely. You're the best. Good chatting with you always, Alicia. AC. Don't fall in love with Alicia if you just checked out her profile. AC. Keep it on the level here. They're party animals. What is wrong with these old people? He's older than me. I just turned 64, and the guy can run circles around me. Patriots, yes. Will do. Love you too. Good to see you. Good to talk to you. Not see you, I guess. Talk to you. Or to talk to you. Good having you with us tonight. So there's we got a little diverted there. What was I talking about? Oh, Florida. Sorry, Chris. Chris, tell me where I'm wrong. I'll go back to that schedule if you'd like, but tell me where I'm wrong. I don't think I am wrong. I think this team wins 3 games tops. Billy Napier's fired. Might be the first college coach fired. He might get fired during the season. He's got a gauntlet to run. That might be the toughest schedule in the country. One of them. Once more, good night. Go to sleep. Late over there. Alicia's in London. So anyway, that's my thought on Florida. Again, the playoff is going to be nutso. Let me tell you. I'm going to give you right now, as we talk about the. Let's go back. I got to get back to the conferences. I'm going to give you my 4 buys right now. Buy number 1 ranked team, the Georgia Bulldogs. Rick Sherlock's not with us tonight, so he can't say I'm brown nosing. Number 2, the Oregon Ducks from the Big Ten. Number 3, Utah Utes for the Big 12. Thought I was going to say Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State. I was leaning that way, but I like what I'm hearing about Cam Rising and that Utah team. And team number 4 from the ACC. I want to say Miami so bad. I'm going to say FSU. Rebound. Some way DJ gets it done. Mike Norvell is one of the great coaches in the country in my mind. Struggled a bit. Now he's found his feet the last 2 or 3 years in Tallahassee, and I think this team gets that 5th spot or that 4th spot. 5th to me is going to be Notre Dame. Let's just say they got to pencil in. No, actually, they don't have to pencil them in. I think the Group of 5 winner. I think they got to go in 5th, so I'm going to put them in there. The Group of 5 winner. This is a tough one for me because I got several teams I like a lot. I like Memphis a lot. I like Fresno State a lot. I like Boise State a lot. And I got some sleepers like UTSA. But I'm going to say Boise State gets that 5th spot. That puts Notre Dame 6th. After that, I'm going to say Texas. I'm going to say Ohio State, 8. 9. Ole Miss. And these could go, some of these rankings could go either way, right? Ole Miss. Alabama. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams right now from the Big 12. I'm sorry, from the SEC. I got 2 spots left, guys. That's it. I got 2 teams from the Big 10. Am I going to put Penn State in there? You know how I feel about James Franklin. He doesn't win big games. I got 2 picks left. Am I going to go SEC? If I think the SEC is worthy of 5 teams, Missouri, LSU. I think the Big 12 runner-up gets a spot. I don't think UCF gets in because I think they need to win. I'm going to say Oklahoma State. I got 1 spot left for Miami or the run. I'm going to say it's Miami just because I can't not say it. So that would leave. So you would have in that first round of games, Boise State against Miami, Notre Dame against Oklahoma State, Texas against Alabama, Ole Miss against Ohio State. There's some fun matchups in week 1. And then I'm not sure if they reseed or not for the second week, right? Let's just say they do. Well, I'm going to say Georgia will play I'm going to have Boise State winning that game, by the way. So they can't play them. They've got to play the worst ranked team. I'm going to say Oklahoma State will upset. I'm going to say Notre Dame. Sorry. In the second round, you're going to get Notre Dame and Georgia. Yeah, I'm going to say they reseed though, right? So they wouldn't be there. If I say they're going to reseed, the highest winner I'm going to have, you could have Georgia and Alabama in the second round. You could have Oregon and Ohio State. Big Ten matchup, sorry. Utah and Notre Dame. FSU and Boise, who I've got winning a game. I'm going to have Notre Dame beating Utah, goes to the semis. I'm going to have Georgia beating Alabama. I'm going to have Boise State. How about this? Boise State beating FSU, going to the semifinals. And then the last win would be Utah. Who did I say they were going to play? I can't read my writing here. Ohio State. No, yeah, Ohio State. I'm going to have Ohio State get in the semis as well. And then I think it would probably be Georgia, Boise State, Notre Dame, Ohio State. We're going to have a Notre Dame, Ohio State final. Notre Dame wins a national championship. How about that? A little baseball update from Steven tonight. Yankees got two-run home runs from Judge and Soto. Thank you for that, Steve. What do you think about that pick? What do you think about that? I'll get this laid out better. And if I have the wrong matchups because of the way I don't know if they reseed as they get to the round 2 or not, with the top 4 teams get a bye. We got some pretty good matchups there in week 1, right? And again, these could come in different orders. I love this. I got Miami getting beat first round. Sorry, Paul. Do we have an official night on the dark horse going into week 1? To win it all, Chris? Tell me, when you say night on a dark horse, give me a little bit more context. Are we talking about to win it all, to get to the playoff? I mean, you want a real dark horse, it would be UCF for me. If it's somebody to just get to the playoff as a dark horse, UCF. To win a national championship, would it be somebody outside of the teams I took in the playoff? Is that what you're telling me? So give me a little, I'm not writing a book, I guess. I'm not asking you to go crazy here. Give me a little bit more context of what you're asking me. And we'll dive into that. What else is going around the world of college football right now anyway? What do we got news-wise? We got some quarterbacks that have been named starters this week. Will Howard named at Ohio State. Nebraska names their touted freshman, Raiola, the starting quarterback. Watch out. Nebraska's another team, sleeper potential out of Nebraska. Matt Rule is a really good college football coach. I had some others. Jalen Daniels who's been injury prone, a great quarterback, will start at Kansas. I know I saw a couple other noted teams here with quarterback selections. I can't remember who they were now. See if I can jog my memory here. By the way, Connor Stallions, who created all this controversy at Michigan, is now a high school football coach. Not USC. Not USC. I'll say, okay, so not to win the whole shebang, just the back page team to watch going into week 1. UCF. Not USC, UCF. Central Florida. University of Central Florida will make some noise in the Big 12, their second year in the Big 12. I think KJ Jefferson, highly touted transfer. He might be the transfer the most impact this year. And playing that offense, I think this team has got some pretty good. a chance of being really good. Gus Malzahn has been okay. 24-16 in the 3 years at UCF. I think they're ready to bust out. Quarterback's been an issue, and a quarterback like most offenses, but in Gus Malzahn's offense, a guy like KJ Jefferson will be very, very good. I think USC, on the other hand, is going to have a really, really bad year this year. I don't see them finishing in the top 25 their first year in the Big Ten. We can take a quick look at them, by the way. The Big Ten. Where are they? How cool would it be? And I've said this a couple of times. Remember, the group of five, man, if somebody like Army, Jeff Monken had some really good teams a few years back. 2 lost teams. If he could roll back the clock and have that type of year in the AAC, there's a chance. Probably not a good one. And maybe not this year. But in the coming years, we could see Army or Navy, for that matter, in the college football playoffs as a representative for the group of 5 highest ranked champions. Not going to happen this year, I don't think. But anyway, back to USC. Where's the Big Ten? Why are you eluding me? I think it'd be a tough year for UCLA and USC in the Big Ten this year. I think USC is going to lose in Vegas in week 1 to LSU. They'll beat Utah State. At Michigan, I'm going to give them a win at Michigan. It'll be a tough place to go play. The Big House is always a tough place to play. But I think they'll lose to Wisconsin. I think Luke Fickell is going to have a much better team in Wisconsin this year. I think they lose that game. I think they win at Minnesota. I think I'm tempted to pick against James Franklin going to Ohio State because he doesn't win those games. But I'll give him a win at Penn State. I'm going to give him a win at Maryland. I'll give him a win at home against Rutgers. I'm going to give them a loss at Washington. I'm going to have Nebraska beating them at home in November. They got UCLA on the road, loss, and a loss to Notre Dame. I've got this team 6-6. Year 1 in the Big Ten. I guess one of the big questions would be, does that put Lincoln Riley on the hot seat? Which I got to believe it does after last year's horrendous finish and the underperformance in the Big 12 championship game 2 years ago. I think Lincoln Riley finds himself squarely in the hot seat heading into next year, if in fact they're 6-6 this year or worse. I mean, I've got them beating Michigan home. That's not easy. I don't care how bad. I think Michigan will be one of the bigger disappointments in the league this year. They're ranked in the top 10. They're defending national champions. There's a lot of controversy still swirling around. I'm not going to get into a bunch of opinions about that tonight because I'm trying to stay positive. And on the field now, we got games. But there's a chance this team is 5-7. I think that would put Lincoln Riley squarely on the hot seat. And speaking of big name coaches, Ryan, in the Big Ten, what's the future for Ryan Day? If Ryan Day doesn't get it done this year, does Ryan Day need to win a national championship to keep his job? Does he need to get to the championship game? They've gone all in, brought in some big names in the transfer portal. Spent a lot of money, if you will. I mean, we have to talk about that fact now. I'm not going to debate the fact whether it's good or bad, but is Ryan Day going to be on the hot seat if he doesn't win the Big Ten? If he doesn't beat Michigan, he's going to beat Michigan this year, right? If he loses the Big Ten championship game to, say, Oregon, I'm going to give you my winner and my sleeper in every single conference right now. And then we'll get into this week's games. And if you guys have more comments or topics you want to get into, please do bring them up. As we'll wrap it up here in the next half hour. The American Conference, I'm going to pick Memphis as the winner here. And when I say my sleeper, I'm not saying they're going to do well. They could do very badly. And I'm not going to pick the team I think is, the two teams that are vying for the top of these this conference or any of these conferences. It's going to be a true sleeper, as Chris said here, right? I don't know why. I guess I like that comment. That's why I've left it up there, Chris. Anyway, the AAC. I like Memphis to win this. If you want a dark horse, I'll give you two. Texas San Antonio and a sleeper of sleepers. I'm only going to do this in one conference, probably. Army Black Knights. Just saying. Army will do well in this conference, I think. Whether they win it in year one, I don't know. Jeff Moncton, again, I talked about underrated coaches. I talked about Kyle Whittingham at Utah. Jeff Moncton at Army has done a tremendous job. You don't win at Army. Nobody wins at Army. He's had a really good career at Army. Tough couple of years the last 2 years, but he's had some really good teams and winning teams. And he's had offers to go to South Carolina, some other big schools, and he has stayed at Army. So anyway, there's my pick. Memphis sleeper, two sleepers there, UTSA and Army. The ACC right out of the gate, we got. Well, I got to tell you, obviously my favorite is FSU based on my playoff picks I just gave you. Now I've got to save this, by the way, the entire season. The sleeper, I'm not going to tell you Miami because people like them. The sleeper I'll give you here, I'll go way out on a limb. How about if I go way out on a limb? Syracuse Orangemen. How about that? You still with me? You still with me, Dave Guyette? My sleeper in the ACC doesn't mean they're going to win. Syracuse. Let's call it sleeper over. Let's say overachievers. How about that? Overachiever. Big 12. Utah's my favorite. I got them in the playoff. UCF would be my sleeper here, obviously. Maybe not that deep a sleeper. See, I could say Oklahoma State, but I think they'll finish second and make the playoffs. So that's not my sleeper. My sleeper is somebody coming as dark as this is official night on a dark horse. Big 10. Obviously, Oregon is my favorite. Sleeper, can't be Ohio State, can't be Penn State. If I'm going to give you a sleeper here, I'm going to say Nebraska Cornhuskers. How about that? You look at Nebraska's record right now. Just for giggles. At UTEP, win. At Colorado, I'm sorry, yeah. No, these are at home. Colorado, yes, win. Sorry, Deion. Not as much hype for Deion this year, right? Expectations should be low. I got them 4-8 when they did their schedule last week. Northern Iowa, win. Illinois, win. Purdue, win. Rutgers, win. Indiana, win. Ohio State, loss. UCLA, win. USC, win. Wisconsin, loss. That's 2 losses. Iowa. They could win this game. Nebraska's going to be 9-3, 10-2 this year. Big difference. Nebraska hasn't been relevant since they went to the Big Ten. By the way, worst move in the history of college football. We know what followed, right? This was it wasn't a first realignment. I guess the Big East, the ACC started that. But I think the biggest move and probably most impactful in a negative sense to a program had to be Nebraska going to the Big Ten. Just ridiculous. All right. So there you go. There's my sleeper in the Big Ten. Where are we at? Conference USA. Liberty's got to be the favorite here. If I'm going to give you a sleeper, it's probably going to be, I would say Louisiana Tech would be my sleeper. Independence, we can't talk about. I will tell you that other Notre Dame, who I have got predicted to maybe go undefeated and win the national championship. I didn't give you a winner of that Notre Dame Georgia game, did I yet? UMass and UConn are going to be just awful. In fact, ESPN, I think, I don't know if they have them in their bottom 10 or not. We'll take a look at that in a second. The Mid-American Conference. I'm going to say my favorite here is going to be Toledo. The Toledo Rockets. And I'm going to say my sleeper will be Kent State. How about that? Kent State. Mountain West. My favorite's got to be Boise. I picked them to get to the playoff and win this conference. My sleeper, again, not Fresno. My sleeper is going to be UNLV. I'll give you a second one because there's a service academy here as well. Air Force. The Pac-12, which will play one game, actually two games. They'll play Oregon State and Washington State will play each other. Then they'll play each other in the Pac-12 championship game. Kidding. That's not going to happen. They're playing mostly Mountain West schedule, playing each other and playing whoever else. Neither of these teams is going anywhere. SEC, my favorite again. Remember, SEC, Big Ten, ACC, no more divisions. Important. Georgia is the winner. Sleeper, so it can't be any of these teams I took. I got 5 teams getting in. It's got to be somebody who's not in there. For James Martin, I'll say that sleeper is LSU. Actually, no. Take that back. Missouri. You got a couple candidates there. You got Missouri, you got Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas A&M, Sun Belt. My favorite's going to be App State. My dark horse I'll give you will be the Old Dominion Monarchs. How about that? No, James Madison Dukes. Changed my mind. And that's all we got, guys. That's, again, it's not like college basketball where there's so many. So, real quick, let's take a look. I want to look at this bottom 10 if I can still find it from ESPN. I might have lost it now. That bottom 10 is back. Always fun to look at. We'll look at this. I know they do it from time to time during the season. Here's who they pick in their bottom 10. Number 1, Kennesaw State. They just joined they're just joining the ranks of FBS, the football bowl division. And thus they add the name to the prestigious annals of bottom 10 owls, taking their perch on the rotted tree branch next to Temple Rice in Florida Atlantic. Louisiana Monroe is the second worst team. They got a new coach and Brian Vincent. They fired Terry Bowden last year. So they'll be trying to do this. Actually, Kent State, who I picked to be a sleeper, is going to be, they've got picked to be one of the worst teams in the country. Akron at number 4. Michigan. How about Michigan? They've got in their top 10 or worst 10 at number 5. UMass, I mentioned earlier, number 6. Temple at number 7. UTEP at 8. Ball State at 9. Georgia State at number 10. That's the worst, guys. And so a few other people they've got on the waiting list. Charlotte, ECU, Buffalo, Sam Houston, Louisiana Tech, who I actually picked as a sleeper, New Mexico, and New Mexico State. A lot of bad teams around here, huh? For sure. Who else is out there? I want to say hi to Patty Blylevin, I see out there. Mike Roos. Good to have you guys with us. Tanner D, Taylor Phillips, and Jagabon Sam. There's a couple people I see kind of lurking in the shadows here. Can't see everybody. And I know our audience will, the audience and the participation for the show grows once the games start. That's why we take the month of July off. So, in any event, we will grow. We'll still get a bunch of views because the college football community is just awesome participating and buying up this show. So a couple thousand views, and that'll grow as the season goes on. So let's look at week 1, shall we? Well, I shouldn't say that. Week 0, we don't, college. These are schools of higher education. We can't really, count. So we start with week 0. The big matchup of the day at noon on Saturday will be Florida State at Georgia Tech at Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland. FSU is a 10-point favorite. The over-under is 55.5. Georgia Tech's better, as I said, than they've been in a while. Florida State, listen, I've got to like Florida State in this game. I think they get pushed. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that they covered the 10.5 in this game. First game, first week, out of the box, still trying to get, their feet under them. Georgia Tech trying to show that they're still relevant in the Big Ten. So we'll see how they can do here. But I think Florida State wins the game, does not cover, is my prediction today. That could change now, by the way. A lot of times I make picks on Wednesday night, and the lines move. To win the game, Florida State easy. To cover, that will often change on a Saturday morning. And I often will give you my picks. I'll put them on the site. So when I talk about them on Sunday, it's not, rearview mirror thinking here. Augustin is here. Hello, Augustin. I will tell you this. Augustin's a huge Oregon fan, as you can see. Augustin, welcome back to the show. Good to have you. I hope you remember we're on at 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. I have your team winning the Big Ten in their inaugural Big Ten season, beating Ohio State. I also have them getting to the playoff as the second-ranked team, and I have them losing. Where do I have them? Notre Dame. Oh, yeah. I think I messed this up. So I got Oregon playing Oklahoma State in the second round, and I've actually got them winning. So I screwed this up, by the way, already. It's going to be Boise State and Oregon in the semis. So we got to figure out. I guess it would be Georgia and Boise State, and it would be Oregon and Notre Dame. I have Notre Dame beating Oregon in my projections in the Big Ten. So, I'm sorry, in the final semifinals. Let's see. Where was I? I digress. I'm also looking at CBS's best bet, by the way, is Florida State. Who do they like? Do they make a pick here? I don't think they do. I got to wait. Again, with the spread, rarely will my pick for winners change unless it's a very close spread. But sometimes the spread itself, my pick will change. Anyway, we also have Montana State at New Mexico. We know New Mexico is going to be terrible. Montana State's an 11.5-point favorite. I'm going to pick Montana State to win this game and also cover the spread easily. SMU, again, another team to keep an eye out for. First year in the ACC. Could be a sleeper there. It's going to be interesting for these new teams. I think they'll be the best newcomer in the ACC. I like them to beat Nevada at Nevada. They're a 25-point favorite. Probably what I would do here if I'm going to bet this game, which I probably won't. Will be over 56. Delaware State at Hawaii. Hawaii's a 39-point favorite. Delaware State plays a Division II or maybe even NAIA. Not sure. Can I tell by clicking on them? Let me see. Where do they play? They play in the MEAC. So same league as Albany State here, by the way. So they're going to get shellacked at Hawaii, and Hawaii's no good. But Delaware State, if they're going out there for a paycheck. I also heard this game's on pay-per-view. I don't know what it is, 99 cents. I have no idea. I have not seen it. I heard that on the National Streaming Sports National Sports Show tonight. You already have challenges with me in college football because you think Oregon's going to win it all. As you're a fan, I'm looking at this objectively. So I've got you in the Final Four, and I've got you losing to Notre Dame. That's a pretty good year one in the Big Ten. Picking them to win the Big Ten over Ohio State, who's loaded, Augustine, I think is pretty aggressive already. A lot of people like Oregon to do that. I'm not the only one. You got a really good football team. Dan Lanning's a really good football coach. You got a really good quarterback that you paid $2 million to bring in from Oklahoma, and Dylan Gabriel. Team's going to do very, very well. But they're going to lose in the national semifinal. So anyway, you got 4 games this weekend. Time to get excited is going to come next weekend, Labor Day weekend, wall-to-wall football. We'll have Larry Sorensen on to talk a little bit about the season, as we talked about tonight. His thoughts on. I'm trying to keep it on the field, but I'm going to have Larry in for the first time and talk about some of the challenges he might see with some of the issues, if you will, in college football. But there are tons of good games. Thursday night, there's got to be 30 games. I don't know, probably not that many. 20 plus games. Probably the best game of the night on Thursday. Coastal Carolina, Jacksonville State. Might be a good game. Don't overlook that game. You got North Carolina at Minnesota. That's a pretty good game for week 1, night 1. UCF, who I like as a sleeper, gets New Hampshire. They'll kill them. Probably only good games. Friday, Florida Atlantic, Michigan State. Elon. Where's Elon play? I still don't know where Elon plays, right? I still have no clue. TCU, Stanford, Western Michigan, Wisconsin. Army gets Lehigh. Not a lot to look at. Saturday, huge though. Georgia, Clemson. Huge game. Penn State, West Virginia. West Virginia might win this game at home. This may be a bet for Keith right here. They're going to get 8+ points at home. Like them a lot. Some other interesting matchups. We'll get more into these next week, obviously. Colorado State could be a sleeper in that Mountain West. They're going to get Texas. You got Miami at Florida, as I said, although I think Florida is just not going to be any good. I'm thinking Notre Dame in that future bet. Are you? What I tell you, what were they? 2,000 plus 2,000? Is that right? What'd you get them at, AC? And where'd you bet it? Because I want the best price I can get. I'm going to put 100 down on Notre Dame to win it all. I think they were plus 2,000 when we talked about this last week, AC. Tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. Some other interesting matchups on Saturday. Syracuse we talked about. We'll get Ohio. I know there's another couple good games here somewhere. Old Dominion at South Carolina. Guess we got to get to Saturday night to get to some better games. UNLV and Houston could be an interesting matchup. Notre Dame is going to get Texas A&M, as we talked about, at 7:30. Another huge game. So you got about three 3-4 really good games. Fresno State going to Michigan. Jim Harbaugh won't be there, by the way. He was going to be a captain that day. Not going to happen. And that's really about it. Then Sunday, you got USC and LSU at Vegas. Top 25 matchup, but I don't see anything happening there. And you got Florida State will be at home on Monday night against Boston College. Bill O'Brien's debut as the Eagles head coach. So what were they, by the way, AC? I think probably not going to get it. Let me see. Probably be easier to Notre Dame. Oh, can't type that one. Hold on. Notre Dame odds to win championship. I had him plus 2,000 last week. I should have bet him then. Plus 2,200 I see right now in one of these. What's happening here? Why can't I scroll? Because of that. Hold on. I don't know where. Oh, FanDuel. Plus 2,200. Is that how I use FanDuel? What do I have on my phone here? We'll get somebody. We're going to be promoting a betting site, by the way. I talked to Mac at National Streaming Sports. It's not official yet, but we are going to have a betting site that we'll be partnering with too. So, yeah, FanDuel. That's who I use. So plus 2,200. Bet 100, win 22,200. Probably bet the Patriots as well. What do you got here, AC? We're going to wrap it up here in a second. You're going to Harris. Not exactly sure what the odds will be when you make a bet. Don't wait too long. I got to believe you want to make it before next week and they play. They probably won't change a lot. I mean, I guess if Florida State were to lose to Georgia Tech this weekend, I guess that might change some people's future odds. But I doubt anything will change too much this weekend unless there's injuries. And I think Notre Dame is going to be very, very good, dependent, again, on Riley Leonard and the health of said quarterback. So anyway, guys, good show tonight. We'll start next week. We'll hopefully have Larry Sorensen on, who's the color man for Wake Forest football. We'll talk about the ACC, and we'll talk about the chances of some of the teams that we talked about. He's a Michigan alum. We'll talk to him about the situation at Michigan and what his thoughts are. And also, Larry can be tough to pin down on picking a national championship because he's got to do games within the ACC. But we'll try to pin him down on a pick. Again, I'm all over Notre Dame. You heard it here first. Notre Dame beats most likely Georgia in the national championship game. So anyway, guys, we'll wrap it up. Keith Engle-We for TGI Sports Talk College Football Huddle. You guys have a great night. You'll see this replayed at midnight tonight and also Saturday morning at 9 a.m. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports